Hello everyone, welcome to another live. So yeah, the narcissist world falls apart without you. You are a warm light in a cold, empty room. You have a loving, kind, compassionate nature, which gave life and meaning to the narcissist. Even though they may not have deserved it. And yeah, they relied on your endless empathy, loyalty, and forgiveness to fulfill this deep void inside of them. They built their entire world on your kindness. And that's how you should know. Their world does fall apart without you. Without you, their fragile illusion starts to crack. Your absence is going to leave them with nothing but the harsh reality of their own emptiness. It's like watching a house of cards just crumble down until it then reveals the raw, unguarded truth beneath it all. You have a generous and understanding heart. You are the force, the glue that holds their carefully crafted facade together. So of course, when you step away, their world, which is built on borrowed light from you, cannot stand on its own. But of course, they want to make it out like something was wrong with you, or you weren't good enough for them. That's what they want you to think. But you've got to remember that your worth is not tied to someone who took advantage of your love. You have real, powerful compassion. And this is something that the narcissist can never truly have. And that's why they had to get it from you. I mean, think about it. They had to rob you of your love and compassion, your kindness and generosity, without them reciprocating anything back in return. Why did they have to rob that from you? Of course, it's because they don't have any of their own. If they did have any love, kindness, generosity of their own, then you would have seen some of that. You would have had an equal exchange. You didn't, because they haven't got any to give. And that's why they robbed you of that. But by you letting go of this narcissist, you will reclaim your power. And you will show that genuine care cannot be manipulated. Yes, you have an ability to love and forgive, and that makes you radiant. But without that light of yours, their dark, brittle world is inevitably going to crumble. Now, I know many of you see the narcissist moving on. It looks like they're riding off into the sunset with a new supply. And yeah, I get it. It can seem very convincing and believable. And it can make you believe that this is real, this is the truth. It's that maybe it was you. Maybe you weren't good enough. Maybe there was something wrong with you. Or maybe that's why you're the one now who is stuck and maybe not happy. And yet it seems that they're moving on and they're living their best lives. It may seem that way, But what you've got to understand is that every move they make is just a carefully rehearsed performance designed solely to win your validation. They crave the admiration of someone loving, kind, and compassionate, just like you. Every manipulation, gaslighting tactic, even the smear campaign, these were all just tools in their arsenal to twist reality and keep you engaged. So even when it looks like they're moving on and you see the pictures on social media, looks like they're so much happier now with a new supply. What are these staged moments of them living their best life? It's all just faux happiness. They want to make it seem like now every aspect of their world is perfect. But no, beneath that polished show lies a desperate need. They rely on your empathy to fill a void that nothing, even real, can satisfy. Your genuine kindness is just the fuel for their performance. It's a mirror that reflects back the self-importance that they can never truly generate on their own. And so it's all really just a show for you. Everything you see from them. Every moment of genuine care you gave to the narcissist, whether this was your love, attention, understanding, your emotional support, or even your tangible resources, this all became the lifeblood that sustained them. Their entire identity depended on your unwavering validation. You fed the illusion. All of your kind words, your supportive gestures, all of the materialistic or emotional help that you provided, it wasn't just an act of love. This was all fuel for their fragile self-image. The more that you offered to them, the more they relied on you to keep this constructed world intact. You were the glue that held it all together. You were the backbone. Without you, it all crumbles. It all falls apart like a house of cards. Because it's all based around you. It's all based around what you gave to them. And yeah, I know they may make you feel like what you gave wasn't that important or there was something wrong with it. They want you to think that. They want you to think that you weren't really a source that they depended on. And that's just it. The more they try and make you believe that, or if they just go completely silent and ignore you, it all reveals what they're insecure about. That deep down they know you were the foundation, the structure of it all. And that's revealed by the impact of duration. Just look back and think about how long this cycle continued and how deep their dependency grew. Your consistent care wove itself into the very fabric of their existence, which made your validation a critical pillar of their self-worth. And your ongoing support wasn't just providing momentary relief. It became a sustaining force that they couldn't imagine living without. And just think about the scale of that dependency. Just how heavily dependent they must have been on you. And the scale of your nurturing. I mean, think about how much they pushed you outside of yourself. They got you to overextend yourself. They really pushed your limits, your boundaries. And so the amount that they need you, the amount that their world is going to fall apart without you, this can all be measured by every sacrifice that you made every word of empathy, every resource that you shared with them. This all reveals just how deeply entwined their identity became with your validation. So this wasn't merely about a few kind gestures. We're talking about a prolonged, all-encompassing feeding of their ego that made your support indispensable. If this is making sense to you, give it a thumbs up. Let's make sure this video gets out there. I know so many people, you know, they're looking at the narcissist, moving on at the end of the relationship, after everything was done for them, everything the narcissist stole from them. And yeah, it seems convincing, it seems believable that the narcissist has just moved on. So they're happy now, when that isn't even the case. And you should know that by everything you provided to them, everything they took from you, everything you sacrificed, everything you lost. I mean, the more that you lost, the more that your life has changed for the worse. The more that you've given in your energy, your health, your vitality, your time, your attention, your money, all of these things, the more that you've given, the more that you've lost, it should reveal just how dependent on you they were. And that was their fuel, that was their supply. So what's going to happen without that? Of course, their world is going to fall apart because they haven't got that there anymore. The extent and the duration of your kindness directly determines how profoundly they depended on you. And it just reveals the immense impact that your genuine compassion had on their world. And it's because of your capacity to love. It was so deep that it became the very essence that upheld illusion. And now it should expose to you just how fragile and unsustainable their self-worth truly was. But of course, I get it can seem quite confusing because they seem very bitter now. They seem even resentful, as though it's unfair, as though they're entitled to more from you, as though what you gave wasn't really anything. They minimize it. They downplay it. But that's just it. They resent you, yes. But it's because your love, attention, and support was their oxygen. It was a lifeline that they depended on to keep their fragile self-image afloat. Now that's why when you finally recognized the imbalance and you stepped back, it wasn't just a withdrawal of help. It was a removal of the fuel they desperately craved. And so their anger really isn't about you. It's more about the fact that you stopped feeding into their need for validation, which is a need so deeply ingrained that it left them feeling exposed and vulnerable. And that's why they became resentful. It's not because what you gave wasn't good enough. I mean, just think about it. For years, you poured your kindness, your understanding, and even tangible resources into a relationship that was one-sided, and it was exhausting you until you had nothing left to give. And, you know, just think about it. They targeted you. Why? Because you had something. And then they drained you until you had nothing left to give. they just feel it's unfair because they believe that they're entitled to your endless supply of support, even if it means taking and exploiting your energy and never truly giving anything back. So their resentment is more just about a reflection of their own deep dependency and their inability to stand on their own, rather than it being a measure of your worth or the love that you so generously provided. But I know some of you, you're still going to be thinking, yeah, I can see all of this. The fact is, you see the narcissist moving on. You see them without a care in the world, and it looks like they're living their best lives. They've got a family now. They're married. They've got children. So you may feel like it doesn't matter what I say, as though that's just what you're seeing now. But that's just it. This is what narcissists do. This is what they all do. It's always a show with them. Yes, it may seem like they're invincible, unstoppable. They may start new families. They may get married. They may have children. This is all a part of a grand performance. And it's all meant to convince you. That's the purpose of it all. They're trying to convince you that they never needed you at all. And so if you believe in it, then it's going to become more real for you. And you're going to start to think that somehow they are happy now. They are living their best lives. They did never need you. And now they have got something better. That's the whole point of why they do the things that they do. That's why narcissists want to have the perfect partner, the perfect family. That's why they want the big house. That's why they want all of those things, is to try and prove that they're independent and that they're living their best lives. It's all just to prove a point. It's to put on a show. It's meant to convince you. But the reality is, yes, every move that they make, every public display of their success is still a desperate bid for your validation. They may build this new flashy identity, but it's really just a facade to hide the truth. Their self-worth has always depended on your admiration. And it will continue to, even after you're gone. Whether you left them or they left you, it's going to remain the same. Listen, they intentionally project this image of independence and perfection for a reason. And it is to make you believe that they're thriving without you. When really, every new relationship or achievement, it's all just a mirror reflecting back the validation they crave from you. Their elaborate show, even with the manipulation, the gaslighting, the smear campaigns, sabotage, none of this had anything to do with genuine growth. It was all about feeding their ego, which is tied to your thoughts and opinions. Because think about it like this, right? I mean, why would they have to do all of that anyway? If they're separate from you, if their false identity isn't tied to you and how you're doing, They wouldn't care about what you're doing. They wouldn't need to triangulate you, devalue you, gaslight you, smear you, sabotage you. Why would they have to do any of that? They do it all because they want to leave you scarce, leave you without anything, where you're unable to move on and build your own life because they can't move on from you. That's why. And this is how you know that they haven't moved on. This is how you know they're never going to move on, because how about you? How come they just left you in that condition? They sabotaged you. They did all of these things to you. Does that look like someone who's really moving on anywhere? Or is it someone who is going to remain tied to you to feed their ego for validation for the rest of their lives? Clearly that's what it's about. That's why they had to try and take you down. That's why they had to do it. Because they know they're not going to be okay. They're not going to be happy. They're not going to be at peace unless they feel like you're done for, you're finished. Which reveals that whatever they're doing now, wherever they are, whoever they're with, it doesn't matter. It's all fake. It's all still tied to you, because that's the whole point of why they had to do these things before they left you. That's why. Because otherwise, if that was the case, if they were really moving on, if they were really going somewhere, starting a new life, a new relationship, marriage, children, all of these things, then what does it matter about you? Why do they care about how you're doing, how you're living, what your life is going to be? Why would that matter? And this is how you know with all of them, they're all exactly the same. They all do the exact same things because none of them are ever really living. None of them are ever really present, there, genuine. None of them are. And this is why they just can't leave. They can't move on with regrets. So they've got to finish you off first. They've got to run you into the ground. Because otherwise they're not going to be okay. And they have to keep coming back. They have to keep checking in on you, making sure that you haven't moved on. Because their entire life, their entire existence, once they've been around you, once they've been involved with you, it's all just tied to you and how you're doing. It's all based on your validation. Yes, even when they gaslight you, smear you, sabotage you, they're still seeking your validation. Even when they're controlling you, trying to keep you stuck without anything, anyone, isolating you. This all still revolves around validation. Because that's just it, you know, if you had the things you wanted, if you were in a position where you could move on, instead of just being ruined by them, then how are they supposed to get your validation now? If you've got everything you need, if you're doing well, if you've moved on, you've got a family, they can't get your validation then. This is why they want to keep you stuck, scarce, isolated, so that you can continually provide them with this supply, because they're not going anywhere. Yes, it may look like they've moved on. It may look like they've got a new relationship, a family, all of these things. It may seem that way. It's all fake. It's all for your validation. They're going off, acting like they're doing well now, acting like they're happy. It's all to get validation from you. And this is why they have to keep you stuck. They can't let you move on. They have to finish you off before they're gone. So it's never what it seems. You're the one who's trying to get away. You're trying to escape. They're the ones who remain stuck, tied to you. It doesn't matter how it looks like they've moved on or what they may be doing now. They're still there. And whatever they're doing is just a show. It's all fake. It's all for your validation. The empath. Because your generous nature, it made them feel insignificant. It made them resent you because they became heavily dependent on you. So it doesn't matter how much they parade their new life. This is all just a performance. And it's just another way for them to keep you as the ultimate judge of their worth. And your support, or even your lack of support sometimes, it just continues to define them. And yeah, underneath this glittering exterior, they're still reaching out to you. They're still yearning for the very love and validation that you once so freely offered. And they just can't let that go. They're longing for it. They can't get enough of it. There's no moving on from that. There's no moving on from you. And that supply of love, validation that you gave to them. There is no moving on from that for them. Give it a thumbs up down below if you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, without your constant validation, this show that they're putting on, it's really just a mask. Because beneath this facade, without your love, support, attention that you once provided to them, now they're left with an aching void. Feelings of emptiness, which typically drives them back into their old habits. You know, when they first got around you, they may have told you they were drinking before. They were using substances. They had a gambling addiction. They may have told you these things. And it was your validation, your supply, that fueled them and kept them in a grandiose state. You upgraded their lives to where they felt like they didn't need those things anymore. You became their addiction. They became addicted to your validation. But now without that there, without your validation and support, they experience a feeling of emptiness which will drive them back into their old habits. So they will start binge drinking, substance abuse, and gambling. As many of you may be seeing on their social media, compulsive shopping. And what is all of this for? What is this excessive spending about? What is with these flashy cars? The big house, what is all of this for? What is it to compensate for? What do they miss it? Of course, it's to give their life some form of meaning. It's to garner validation, admiration, and to try and fill their endless void, their sense of emptiness. And to many of you, you mistake it. You see it as though this person is having a great time. This person is living their best life. This person has got it all going on. They've got this flashy new car, big house, their ideal partner, perfect family. Yeah, it looks that way on the outside. It's actually just a cry for help. Because nothing can't replace the love, the validation that you provided to them. All of this is just a show to cover up, to conceal just how empty they really feel. But of course, they're never going to let you know that. But this is what it is. And the more grand the performance, the more insecure they actually feel that now that you're gone. Now that you're no longer providing that to them. And they're never going to be the same without you. They're just going to keep pretending. Keep acting like they're so happy, they live their best lives. When really, no, they're not. They're miserable, empty. Their lives lack meaning now. And it's all just superficial to cover up how inadequate they feel deep down. Because now they're no longer getting your validation. They've no longer got you there. They screwed things up with you. Everything they're doing, it's self-destructive. It has nothing to do with a genuine recovery or independence. It's all a hidden cry for help. It's all just a means for them to cope with the loss of the emotional fuel that once sustained their fragile identity. So even this loud, confident display, it's still tethered to your validation. And that's why without this display, their suffering becomes too real to hide. And no one else is going to replace what you gave to them. No one else is ever going to be that for them. You provided unique validation, genuine, unwavering love and support. And this was unlike anything that anyone else could even offer. And they built their identity on that very special connection, which made it an essential part of who they are. Now without that, all of their grand displays and attempts to move on are just hollow echoes. There will be no substitute. There will be nothing, no one who can ever recreate that irreplaceable bond. And this will leave them to face a void that only drives them back to their old destructive patterns. Because without your light, their search for meaning remains a desperate cry in the darkness. One that no imitation can truly fill. So what's going to happen to them now? Because as I mentioned, just remember everything you gave to them, everything you provided, everything you sacrificed. Just remember it all. Remember how much you lost. You gave them all of your time and attention, your validation. It was very special to them. It provided their lives with meaning. It gave them this sense of identity. It was all based off of you and what you gave to them. And they were dependent on it. Of course they were. That's why they were there for such a long time. That's why they couldn't let you go. That's why they became so bitter, angry, and resentful. Because they wanted more. It was never enough. They couldn't generate anything from within. It was all based off of you and what you were given, sacrificing for them. So what's going to happen now? If they ever got that supply, that fuel, it's no longer there for them. And, you think about the length of time Not only the scale of it, the amount that you gave. I mean, you know, you think about it, if it's like a small amount, if something, it's not really a big deal, then it can be easily forgotten. But when we're talking about things that are on such a grand scale and over a significant amount of time, to where it deeply affected you, I mean, you came in with so much, you left with very little. You just lost so much in the process, to where it had a devastating impact on your health, your finances. That really reveals an extreme degree of dependency. Because where did all of that go? It fueled them. It fueled their illusion, their facades. So how are they going to be okay without you? Of course they're not. And this is just it. The future is not looking bright for them. Because now, without your unique supply of unwavering love and validation, their future is going to be nothing more than just a perpetual cycle of desperate performances and crushing voids. So they will continue to chase after that one irreplaceable spark, the feeling that you uniquely provided through fleeting highs and inevitable crashes. And you will see these grand displays. You will see maybe a new relationship, a marriage, or some other carefully orchestrated success story. But it will remain just that. There won't be anything deeper. These are just performances masking an inner emptiness. And it's left without that steady flow of your care. So they're just going to fall back into their old habits without your validation. They're going to resort to binge drinking, substance abuse, impulsive behaviors, and they will search in vain for a substitute for the deep validation that they once extracted from you. But this relentless cycle will keep them trapped in a state of perpetual dependency and suffering. So they will never quite be able to fill the void that only your unique love could momentarily bridge. No one else is going to fill that void in the way that you did. I mean, no one could consistently fill it anyway. But momentarily, I mean, you filled that thing right up. And they actually, for a moment, they felt whole. They were grandiose. You really upgraded them. You made them feel so much better. And that's why they became so arrogant. They had a bit of an attitude then, didn't they? Bit of a swagger. They started to think they were too good for you. Yeah, that's what happens when you fill up that void. When you top it up to the brim, that's what happens to them. They get very arrogant, obnoxious, boisterous. They show a bit of an attitude. That's what they do. That's how you know that you were that grade A source, that loving, compassionate empath. You make them feel loved and cared for. They get a bit of a swagger. They get a bit of an attitude. They start thinking they're the best thing since sliced bread, when before, when they first met you, they were playing the victim. They were trying to gain your sympathy. And then before you know it, after a certain amount of time, they start becoming overt, grandiose, thinking they're amazing, thinking they're better than you. That's only because of the love and light that they got from you. That's where that came from. And yeah, no one else is going to make them feel that way. No one else is going to make them feel invincible, unstoppable. No one else is going to give them that feeling. And that's just it. That's their supply. That's when you see them becoming grandiose. When you see them even becoming psychopathic. They get crazy. That's all because of your supply that's fueling that. It's your love, compassion, your gentle nature, your empathy, your validation. All of this is contributing to their disorder. It fuels them, making them think that they're really that amazing. And it drives them to become very exploitative, abusive, resentful, vengeful. Because they just want it all. They want to dominate you, control you. But this is how you know how good your supply was. When you submitted, you complied with them. And it made them that way. And they went into that state then, but they got really angry, resentful, psychopathic, demanding. It's because, yeah, they had a taste of it. But now they want more, they want it all. They're trying to get it all out of you. They can see you, you've got these feelings to give, you've got this validation. They want to get it all out of you. Because they're trying to fill up that void. But no matter what you do, it's never going to sustain it. But it makes them just hungrier. It's very addictive for them. And just imagine this, you know, they're never going to get that high ever again. How do I describe this? Just to put it in terms for relatively normal people to understand. What you were to the narcissist, I mean, you were like a drug. You were like a drug to them, okay? So, it's kind of like, it's like crack cocaine. That's what you were to them. And that's why they wanted more and more. Because, you know, initially they had this incredible first high from you. It was so powerful. It made them feel euphoric, on top of the world. Like they could do anything. That's how this drug, this validation from you made them feel. Releasing the dopamine in their brains. Adrenaline. It gave them a rush. And then of course, because it did that for them, because it made them feel so good, so high, naturally they wanted more of it. And they became addicted to it. The problem is that over time, it loses its potency. It doesn't have the same effect. Because they're abusing it. They're abusing your good treatment of them. They're abusing you. They're harming you. And they're harming themselves at the same time. So they're abusing your love, your validation. And they're really just trying to take on too much of it at one time. So they become even more obsessed, even more angry, and they're just trying to get it out of you. They're trying to get that feeling that they got at the beginning, the first time. Like the very first time that they humiliated you, exploited you, dominated you. They want to have that feeling again. It's always out of reach. They can never get it. They can never have that feeling the way it was before. And that's why they become so demanding. That's why they just want more and more. They want a bigger dose. But it gets to a point And this is really sad, it's really pathetic, but this is what happens. They end up just abusing, dominating and controlling you just for them to feel normal. For them to feel relatively okay. Forget about the euphoria. It's not even anything like that anymore. It's just for like a relatively normal feeling. That's the point that it's gotten to now. And of course, that's why they don't tend to bother with you as much by that point. And instead, they try and get it through using other people, multiple sources of supply, triangulation, smear campaigns. But despite that, even though the drug, the validation that you provided, it lost its potency, it was still having a powerful effect on them. It was still keeping them going. The validation that someone else provides is not going to be like that. It's not going to sustain them. It's not even going to make them feel normal, as yours did. Because yeah, at the beginning you gave them so much euphoria, but then gradually it was just to make them feel normal again. Someone else's supply, it's not even going to make them feel normal. It's not even going to be enough. And so that's just what it's like with them. And that's why, of course, this is why when you see them move on, now they're suddenly living their best lives. Now they're suddenly so much happier. Now they've got the ideal partner. Now they're going on vacations that they would never do with you before. What is all of this for? They're chasing that high. And yeah, with you, they didn't need any of that. All they needed is just to sit in a room with you, your validation. Now they've got to do all of this stuff. And it's even then just a facade. Beneath that, they're miserable. And this is what you've got to look at in their behavior, is that the more grand it is, the more extreme, it really just reveals their underlying insecurities. It reveals how miserable they are. Because, you know, someone who's moved on, someone who's happy, they don't have to do anything like that. They don't need to put on a grand display. What is that compensating for? But this is what they do. Because inside they feel hollow, empty. Well, as for us, our future unfolds as a journey toward genuine freedom and healing. Free from the exhausting role of being their sole source of validation. We will reclaim our energy. We will rebuild our self-worth. We will pursue relationships and passions that are truly reciprocal. And our lives will blossom with authenticity and inner strength, nurtured by connections that honor our true worth rather than exploiting our kindness. Yes, we may experience moments of pain or even longing for what we lost. That's a normal and significant part of the healing journey. But we will also experience deeper self-discovery and fulfillment. And it will give us an opportunity to grow into a life defined by healthy boundaries, self-respect, and genuine connection. Because another thing you've got to understand about these narcissists is that someone who doesn't respect boundaries, someone who doesn't respect your limits, someone who doesn't respect people, No genuine connection can exist in that. It's impossible. It just doesn't happen. Genuine connection is marked by boundaries, respect for yourself and for others. Without that, there is no connection with anyone. And that's why it's so important for us to cut them off, go no contact, because then we can start experiencing real life. There is no real life with them. There is no real life for them. How can they experience life? How can they experience connection, relationships, with no boundaries? I mean, that's the whole point. If you're having a relationship, there's meant to be a boundary for the individuals around each person, and also a boundary around the two of them from everyone else, so that you're exclusive with each other. So how on earth are these narcissists going off and having these connections, having these relationships? It's not even possible. There's no exclusivity there. They've always got a bunch of people with their noses in their business. All of the enablers and flying monkeys. There is no connection there, because there's no boundaries, there's no respect. Now that's how when you were with them, there were no boundaries, there was no respect for you. And yet many of us, we were chasing after something that didn't even exist. Because for it to exist, what is its sustenance? What is prolonging its existence? Well, what preserves anything? Boundaries. Boundaries preserves it. Respect preserves it. Well, there are no boundaries or respect with a narcissist, so how can anything be preserved with them? Nothing can. While you're with them, and even when they move on. So they don't establish anything. Nothing real, nothing genuine. It's all fake, it's all just a display. It's all just for your validation. As for you, you can set those boundaries around yourself. And have the boundaries not only for you, but for your new friends, your new partner, whoever it may be. Having that self-respect, respect for others. This is how we experience genuine connection. This is how we preserve it. It doesn't exist with narcissists. It doesn't exist there. And that's why they will just remain trapped in this desperate cycle of false facades, addictive behaviors. As for us, we are going to step into a future of empowerment, where our love and care are finally celebrated in honest, life-affirming ways. So that's what's in store for us. As for them, they're going to continue stuck in that same cycle, not respecting or honouring people's boundaries. There's going to be no exclusivity with narcissists, no respect. How are they going to respect anything? How's there going to be any boundaries? Look at how they left you. Just remember everything they did to you. Smeared you, sabotaged you, gaslighted you. Does that look like someone who's moving on? Someone who doesn't even end the chapter, close the book? They ain't going anywhere. It's all just a facade to fool you. And at the same time, yes, they may also be fooling themselves. Just don't let them fool you anymore. But yeah, we are going to move on. We're going to build better, do better, be better. Because that's just what we do. And I know for all of you, that's what we're all going to do together. That's why we draw that line. We separate ourselves from these types of people. People who do not honor or respect our boundaries. Because there's not going to be any connection there. There's not going to be any love, growth, or fulfillment. But we can have that by drawing that line and by removing ourselves from them. Because that's how we preserve ourselves, our health, connection, and the future that we want. If this video has been informative for you so far, give it a thumbs up, thank you. But yeah, now I would like to hear from you. Let me know in the live chat what you think about what I've said to you. Is this resonating with you? Do you have any questions? I am available right now to answer your questions. Anything you would like to know. If you're new here, I am a narcissist expert, relationship expert, behavior expert, life coach. I've been studying this disorder now for over 7 years, making videos for 6.5 years. So if you would like my expert knowledge, my expert advice, write a question down below and I will read it out and respond to you. Shay says, ask yourself, what does love look and feel like to you? Not that, right? They're not your responsibility, they don't change. Yeah, that's it. I mean, you know, many of us, we may have had a distorted vision of love in our childhood. And I know I did, because I had family members who crossed boundaries, invaded my personal space, my privacy. Like I just said, you know, without boundaries, without privacy, without separation, there's not going to be any love there. A connection, a genuine connection we're talking about, cannot exist. It cannot exist. It's impossible. Without boundaries, without separation, there is no connection. Not between you and them, not between them and anyone. Of course, this is how it happens, where they triangulate you with other people. They get other people to bully you, to cross your boundaries. Smear campaigns, fly monkeys. Because without the boundaries, there's no connection, there's no understanding. Nothing can grow, nothing can exist, nothing can be preserved. It can only ever be chaotic without the separation there. Again, many of us in our childhood, we may have seen this vision of love. It was distorted, where boundaries were crossed, and yet we were told that this is love. It's not. It's about mutual respect, mutual acceptance. Thank you for the kind words, Maurice. You're always appreciated here. Geneva Cordoba asks, Christopher, have you done a session on the demonic spiritual effects? You know, I do have a playlist of videos on religion and spirituality. I've done a few videos there. I don't think I've really touched on demons. I may have done a live video about it in my chosen one videos. It's not something I talk about much because, you know, of course, it's difficult to really prove. It's practically impossible to prove it. If there are demons, I mean, who knows, maybe there are. And that's why sometimes I do entertain that perspective, because there might be. I don't know. I can't prove that there aren't. I can't prove that angels or demons do not exist. And I'd be lying, if I said that I don't feel a connection to a higher power. Not one that's demonic, of course. But, I do believe that, sure, at a higher level, there are different realms. I mean, there must be. There's going to be a realm that's more good and a realm that's more evil. And depending on our behaviors in this life, that probably determines where we're going to go. Because, of course, if you're going around abusing, exploiting, manipulating people, why would you go to a heaven in a higher realm? It doesn't make any sense. Of course, you go where you belong, based on your actions and behaviors in this life, on how you treat people. And I'm sure even if you do treat the majority of people well, and there is just that one person who you choose to bully, that one person, that's going to have more of an influence than even the hundreds, thousands of people that you were good to. I'm sure that will be the case. And, that's why it's so important to be kind, to be good to everyone. And I'm sure it does mention this in many of the holy books. Because the bad things you do, it's going to hold far more weight than many of the good things. And it will determine which realm we go to. That's my belief anyway. And yeah, I think it's fair. We get what we deserve. We get who we're being. That's what it's determined by. Aaron Michael says, I am dead serious. These creatures don't even have the capacity to change. Sadly, yes. From what we know, you are right. Most of them are never going to change. And I still believe that we should hope and pray that they do experience that pivotal moment of self-reflection. However, from my research and experience, it's not going to happen for most of them. Those of us who have experienced that, even though we may never be narcissists, but where we do experience that higher self-awareness and reflection, we are the chosen ones. For most people in the world, it's not like that. Most people are not experiencing this deep self-reflection and also this empathic ability which deepens connection with others. Most people in the world are not experiencing this. So if you find yourself gravitating towards content like this, which explores people, life and relationships at a much deeper level, that must mean something. Robert Hazel says they have demons. I've noticed in so many narcissists, yeah, they do tend to be more on that side. It seems that they do resonate, and they even want to represent demons. They want to be a representation of it. Now, of course, they see it as a joke in many situations, but it's really not a joke. It's real, whether it's from a spiritual or psychological perspective, what you want to identify with, whether you see it as a joke or matter or not, what you want to represent yourself as, some level, it's going to have some effects, whether you think it's a joke or not. Because it's still, it's just in your behaviors, and your behavior is going to impact your feelings, your thoughts, and just the makeup of your mental landscape. So whether they see it as a joke or not, I mean, it's still have an effect on them. Ellie123 asks, Chris, have you ever had to deal with direct energy weapons, microwave weapons? From what I know, no. Would I even notice if that did happen? Who knows? But, I've watched some videos and I've known some people who may be experiencing that, yes, and there is evidence of it. If you look online, you will see YouTube videos. There's the declassified document of the CIA, MK Ultra, from the 1960s. There's so many different things that, yes, they do have these energy weapons where they can send like these electronic or radioactive bursts remotely, and it can be sent over very long distances. Some people also believe in mind reading technology. It's difficult to prove, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's real. I have noticed myself that if I just sit down and I really think of something in my mind, I really picture it, that I can go onto YouTube or some website and it will display a promotion for that. And this has happened many times, and I've heard it from other people as well. So who knows, maybe these large companies, they do have mind reading technology. Just think about the amount of money they have. They can do anything with that. They can invest it into anything. And if there's one thing they want more than anything else, it's power and control. So why wouldn't they trade that money for mind reading technology to have power over our minds, which then gives them even more money anyway? So it makes sense. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it is real. Arigos says, we should not grant empathy to narcissists. No, definitely not, because what happened to them in their childhood, well, maybe they had some love they wanted to give or receive from their parents, and what happened, they were rejected. They didn't get the love, or they didn't get the opportunity to give it in the way that they wanted it to. So now they want to be on the other end of it. They want to have that power. So it's like, yeah, you give them your love, they will step in it. They will step on your hearts, because that's what was done to them. That's what was taught to them in their childhood. So now that's what they're going to do to you. And it's the only thing they know how to do, is rewire their brains from that point on. Marsha Mohammed asks, do they think we are stupid? Well, yeah, many of them do. Especially those who are overt, grandiose. They pretty much think that everyone is stupid, foolish. Even those who are covert, I mean, they become covert because, they must think you're not that stupid. So that's why they're covert. But, the fact that they are manipulating, trying to deceive you, yeah, of course, that reveals that they must think that we're stupid. Because if they didn't think that we were stupid, then they wouldn't even bother, they wouldn't even waste their energy trying to manipulate or deceive us, because they would know that we are too smart for that. But they do it because, yes, they think in their minds that, I mean, it's not always about intelligence. It's not that we're unintelligent, but even that they may see it that way. I mean, they may, yes. But it's kind of, right, think about it like this, right? Narcissists, they're not intelligent or wise. They're actually very stupid themselves. We're far more intelligent than they are. But what they are is clever. They're smart, witty. Big difference. And what that means is, they're more like predators. They're more on the outside of things. And, they're always looking for power, dominance, because they feel powerless, helpless, insecure, weak. So that's why they're that way. That's why they've always got to be 10 steps ahead. They've always got to be in control. It's not so much that we're stupid. We're just not thinking in that way. We're not already on that wavelength. Because we're not hurt. We haven't been abused yet, before meeting them at least. We haven't been exploited in that way. So we're not even thinking that way. We're not on that frequency. They have to pull us onto that first by abusing us. And then they know we may be thinking that way then. But before that, we're just innocent. We're unaware. We don't know what's going on. We don't think that someone would do these things. So we take it as though whatever we see from them is genuine, it's real. There's nothing fake about it. And then they get us, they trick us, and then we're onto it. Then we're on the same wavelength as them. And then they get paranoid. Then they want to distance themselves from us because they worried we might get revenge. Because now we're onto it. But before that, it's kind of like, I don't know, they look at us like we're unaware, we're asleep. Maybe they see us as stupid, naive, weak even. Because, we're just thinking about love and just connection. To them, that's a weakness. Because, that's kind of it. Like the higher up on the frequencies you are, you're kind of blind to all of this. You're not really aware that there's like criminals everywhere, crazy people trying to exploit you, cheat you. You're not aware of that. And I mean, yeah, you put a high vibrational person around a bunch of criminals, like lowlives, God knows what would happen to them. I dread to think how long they would survive. Of course, that's what happens to us, because we are more in the vibration of love, acceptance, and they are more in like shame, fear, anger. So they're just thinking about, how can they get something from you? How can they cheat you, deceive you, rob you? How can they get what they want? That's all they can think about. They're predators, they're exploitative. And of course, they haven't got any love to give. So it's not so much about stupid. I mean, yeah, they may see us as stupid or weak. That's how they may look at it. It's more, they're more crafty, witty, smart. because they've had to go through all of this already. They're rough and ready. You know, they're just looking for like a scrap. They're looking to get someone. They're already looking for it because it was done to them in their childhood. So now they're stuck in that mindset. And that's never going to bring them happiness or peace. They're always going to be miserable like that. Oh, that's a good one. I had to laugh a bit at that. Aaron Michael says, this is BS. We are over here on a live podcast trying to clean up messes we didn't make in the first place. Yep, you're right. You are right. I mean, you know, they did these things to us. They got us onto this wavelength to where we're now starting to figure things out. We're starting to understand now. And yeah, now it's like our responsibility. We have to pick up the pieces. And they're just going to go off and continue with what they did to us with someone else. They're never going to be responsible. They're like children in adult bodies. They do these things to us and they take no responsibility for it. And that's just even more damaging to them when they get away with it. And that's why, you know, when they've done these things to you, you should just want to get away from them. Because that means they're going to get worse. They're going to be even worse for someone else. And that's how, you know, it's really great when you meet someone like on a first date and you really see what they're like. In the initial meeting, you see their attitude. And, you know, you feel like maybe you lost something. They want to make you think that way. Like you missed out on a connection, intimacy, a future with them. When no, you got to think, if that's what they're like at the beginning, at the initial meeting, the first impression, who knows what they're like when they get comfortable? Who knows what they're going to be like in a long-term relationship, a marriage? So, yeah, you had a lucky escape. You really dodged a bullet there. That's what you've got to be thinking. If things don't progress well, smoothly, even in the beginning, you've really dodged a bullet there. They've really done you a favor by showing you exactly who they are. And even then, what they showed you was just the tip of the iceberg. Who knows how much worse it's going to get if you remain around them. And that's why when someone shows you who they are at the first meeting, the initial impression, you haven't got to say this to them. I mean, if you do, it'll probably make them even more mad. But you could just say it to yourself. Just say in your minds, oh, thank you. Thank you so much for showing me a piece of who you are. Thank you for giving me a taste of it. Because now I know what you're like to some extent. And I know that I'm going to be much better off going this way. So then that way I don't have to receive further treatment, further invalidation, further abuse, further just things being taken away from me. And yeah, that's all you really need to know. And you should feel good about walking away from that, because if you remain around it, who knows how much worse it would get. Typically, if you see something like that early on, it's going to get a lot worse. And who knows what they're like in long-term relationships. I mean, that's just it. I mean, When you go to a restaurant, first date with a narcissist, you may experience chaos, arguments, contemptuous treatment towards the waiter. If that's what they're like early on, you can't even plan, arrange like a first meeting effectively. What is a relationship going to be like? How unstable, how unpredictable, how chaotic is that going to be? This is how you got to look at it. I mean, early on, the first meetings, the initial impressions, the first date, this stuff is a piece of cake. This stuff is easy. It's child's play. It's nothing. The difficult part comes in later. When you're having a long-term relationship, when you're moving in together, when you're having children. That's when it gets hard. So if it's hard for you already at the beginning, like the first meetings earlier on, like the first few weeks, even the first few months, if that's difficult, it should tell you everything that you need to know. It should tell you that you're going to be better off without them, and that you don't need them. That's what it should reveal to you. Because usually, even a narcissist can be super smooth. They can make everything super easy at the beginning, the first few weeks at least. Everything goes perfectly, as many of you may know. And then it gets tough, then everything gets chaotic. But early on, they know exactly what to do. So, yeah, if you're with someone who messes up, they screw it up in the beginning, then you should know it's not going to get any better. If they can't even arrange, organize simple things, that's the easiest part. And if they can't even get that right, they can't even do that, then that should tell you everything that you need to know. Mary Reese says, we don't think like predators, hunting for supply. That's exactly it. We don't have a predatory mindset. If we did, we would see them coming from a mile away. We would be onto them straight away, and they wouldn't be able to exploit this. Because we would already know, we'd be thinking the same way already. So we would be suspicious, paranoid about it, like they tend to be. But because we're innocent, because we don't think that way, we don't play those games, that's how they're able to take advantage of us. Canadian math dude says their punishment is their continued lack of growth, insight. No one wants to be around that. Definitely. It is a very confusing and debilitating experience to be around someone who just seems to be unaware, oblivious. It's an absolute nightmare to deal with. What's so much better is when there's this understanding, when people are on the same wavelength. Anything else is draining. The George says, yeah, they literally didn't give a shit about, they didn't give an S about me. Just use me for sex. You know, that's actually a topic that I haven't discussed so far. I haven't talked about that. But you know, it's really the same thing as when a person uses you for money. Just because it's your body, it doesn't make it different. Because these types of people objectify you. So you're still just an object to them, like money. You're like a product, a service to them. It's a transaction. And so it's really the same thing when they do that. Yeah, you know, they don't really care about you. And, you know, it's for their own personal use, for their own gratification. And typically it revolves around power, dominance, control, feeding their ego and sense of superiority. And that's just really what it is. And actually, you know, just as when they maybe take money from you or exploit you for it, it's the same thing. It's not really so much about what they're getting out of it. It's more about them having dominance and control over you, which then makes them feel superior to you. That's what they're more concerned about. They want to have a sense of superiority over you. That's what they're seeking. And the money or the possessions, whatever they got from you, that's not really the important thing. Eddie Wen says they gave up on love, they gave up on life, so they fake their way through their mean existence. Yes, they do. Everything they do is fake. It's all just a false display. Marsha Mohammed says, I do feel like I will not get the love he showed me again, but he took advantage of me. I must leave him. Yeah, I mean, that's just it. You know, that's what they do. At the beginning, they will show you this love, and it's all fake. It's all just to secure you so that they can get what they want from you. And the longer you stay in it, the worse it's going to get. That's why I guess, you know, the best thing you can do is to just leave him. Of course, since he has been taken advantage of you, it reveals, you know, he's dependent on you, and he's likely to be very angry when you begin to step away. So definitely, you know, whenever I'm discussing about leaving someone who's narcissistic, going no contact, I always advise for people to speak to a therapist or coach first, because these people, you know, when you remove their oxygen, they can become dangerous sometimes. You never know how they might react. And that's why you do need to be very careful. Robert Hazel says they can't stand that others love you. Yeah, they can't stand that because no one's ever going to genuinely love them. No one's ever even going to know them because all they got is a mask. All they can do is be fake. But other people, they generally love who we are. Canadian math dude says, if the start of the journey is difficult, then imagine what happens towards the finish line. Exactly. I mean, typically, with many narcissists, it's usually pretty smooth at the beginning. So if you're dealing with someone and it's difficult at the beginning, I mean, usually with anyone, it goes pretty smooth. So, yeah, if it's difficult at the beginning, I mean, that's really a red flag. Unless it's like a small disagreement that can be smoothed over. That can happen sometimes, but when it's like a big blow up, it's like real conflict, then, that's a red flag to me. It's really great that we have this community together. I am promoting about the YouTube channel on my TikTok as well. Because, as you may notice, I'm not getting too many views on here anymore. But on TikTok, I mean, I must have had about 100,000 plays just in the last week. It'd be great if I could have that on YouTube again. So I'm trying to bring more people over from TikTok. And, it'd be good to have some new people here as well. Because I'm sure there's so many people who can benefit from this information and this community that we have developed together. And yeah, you're welcome to promote the YouTube on any social medias that you use. You're welcome to share these videos with anyone who you believe that it may help. But yeah. This is my last evening in this area. I will be returning back to another place where I was before, a different hotel. And I'm not sure about where I go from here now. But we will see. I am along for the rides. I am along for the adventure. And I am intrigued about where this will go. And I don't know where it will go. But I am curious about it. Like a child, I have this childlike curiosity regarding it. But this time I am aware that yes, that can be exploited. I am aware that there are predators out there who see that which they lack. This childhood curiosity, this childhood magic. I am aware that they may see that, and that's why I am very cautious about it as well. But what I do know is that wherever this adventure may take me, wherever it may go, I would like to share this with you. And so, yeah, another chapter of the Narc Survivor journey begins. Anyway, that's all I've got to say for this one. Give it a thumbs up down below if you found this helpful, if it was informative for you. As always, drop your comments down below as well. I read your comments every day. It's one of the first things that I do when I wake up in the morning. If you are new here, hit the subscribe button and click all notifications. That way you will be notified when I go live again, when I upload new videos. That being said, also check out my pre-recorded videos. I spend hours a day editing them, and also my shorts. Your donations are greatly appreciated, no matter how small they may be. Just go to my PayPal. It is paypal.me/Narc Survivor. If you would like guidance and support on your healing journey, you're welcome to book a session with me. And you can do that by going to my website. It is narcsurvivor.co.uk. And also check me out on Instagram. Follow me, it's Narc Survivor YouTube. All right, everyone, that's it for this video. But I look forward to talking with you in another one very soon.